Are you saying that now a ceasefire and end to the bombing is a requirement?
No.
A condition?
A condition to what?
To having the talks. I mean, I thought that there was the point, everyone's point going into this was there have to be talks without preconditions, right?
Right.
Now that these talks, which, let's be honest, they never really started. So this is not a pause so much as just a not ever beginning. Is it now the opinion of you guys, as well as others who are brokering this arrangement and supporting the UN, that a ceasefire and this humanitarian access have to happen as for the talks to begin?
No, Matt, they have to happen because they have to happen. They're important. And in the Vienna process, the ISSG, every member signed up to that. A ceasefire needs to begin. It's stated in the UN resolution, which codifies the Vienna communiques.
Right.
Doesn't.
But it doesn't say that they have to be that the ceasefire has to start immediately at exactly the same time.
No, that's right. It doesn't,
right?
And we're not saying that it should either. I stood up here last week and said when we were having a discussion about whether the opposition was going to show up in Geneva or not, and I reiterated that the Secretary, in all his conversations, publicly, privately, has said that the talks should begin without precondition. It's still our policy that there should be no preconditions to the beginning of discussions. And that includes now. And so nobody's saying that a ceasefire has to happen now in order for the suspension to get lifted and talks to resume. That's Mr. de Mistura's decision to make. A ceasefire is important because it's important on its own right, not because it needs to be tied to the commencement of talks.
Well, all right, I'm confused. The opposition has been saying all along that it doesn't think that it won't join the talks until there's a ceasefire, until humanitarian aid gets there, and until prisoners are released.
They did join. They were there in Geneva. They were represented.
They joined what? They got on a plane and flew to a city in Switzerland.
They were represented. They were represented in Geneva, and there was no ceasefire in place when they got on that plane and landed there in Geneva. They were there. Now, again, we could dither back and forth about the degree to which talks happened or didn't happen. Mr. de Mistura talked about the talks being suspended, which would lead one to believe that he believed they actually got off to at least a start. So let's see where it goes. But the main point is that we agree with his decision to go ahead and suspend and pause. And we agree with him that more work needs to be done by the stakeholders to try to move the political process forward, which is why the Secretary is looking forward to Munich next week.
Like what?
Like what?
What more can the stakeholders do to prepare?
Well, I think I mentioned that in my top. One really important thing that stakeholders could do would be to stop the bombing of innocent civilian targets, stop going after the opposition, and allow for humanitarian aid and assistance to go in. But that's not I'm not saying that that's a precondition. I'm answering your question. What more can be done? Those things can be done. They should be done. Because the international community signed up to them. They're in the Security Council resolution. It's all laid out there. I mean, those are things that everybody should be doing, should be focusing on Daesh and the terrorists inside Syria, not on the opposition and not on innocent civilians. So there's going to be more work to be done.
All right. Well, I just don't see how you can say that it's not now a precondition.
It's not now a precondition.
For you to flip-flop back and forth on
no, sir, I did not flip-flop.
Not you personally, but the administration seems to have, and the international community seems to have. First there can't be any preconditions, and now they're being paused because those non-preconditions that you're talking about haven't been met.
I said in part because of the obstruction of humanitarian aid, and in part because of the continued violence that's being wrought by the regime, supported by Russian military activity. I did not say it was in total. Again, Mr. de Mistura should speak to all the complexities and factors that led to his decision. We support it. We agree with him that more work needs to be done. And again, the Secretary is looking forward to going to Munich next week and to pursuing that.
Sorry, this is very confusing for me to figure out. I can only imagine that it's confusing for the opposition and the people that you say that the people that you're supporting on the ground there.
We also been very honest about the fact that this was never going to be easy. And nobody here at the State Department went into the talks in Geneva feeling that it was going to be the end-all, be-all of all the issues, that it was going to solve all the problems, that they were going to come out of Geneva, with the tablets that say, here's the plan and here's what we're going to do. But so we knew it was going to be hard. It's proven to be hard. What's important is that it did get off to a start, however brief that start may have been, and just as importantly, what's really critical is that the process continue to move forward. It would be immensely easier and frankly better for the Syrian people if that could be accompanied by a ceasefire, an end to these bombings, an end to strikes against the opposition, and the delivery of humanitarian assistance. Does it have to happen before we meet in Munich next week? No. But it sure would be better for the Syrian people in the process if it could.
Well, then why not make it a precondition? I don't get it. I mean, why not put your foot down and say, look, Russia, look, Assad, stop your bombing.
We have said that. We have said that. I just spent 2 minutes at the outset saying that.
But you're also saying at the same time that you're also sending a signal to the opposition that they don't have to do that for there to be talks to start again.
We have believed, not just us, but other members of the ISSG and the UN believed that it was important to get the political discussions going and to not try to hamstring them with preconditions so that there could be a dialogue. Because we believe that should there be productive dialogue, it could lead to those outcomes as well. Why cut off that avenue to potentially getting to those outcomes?
Yeah, but they're hamstrung. They've been worse than hamstrung.
I think you could make the counter argument, Matt, that if we had laid that precondition on there with the bombing still going on, nobody would have gone to Geneva, and nobody would have even attempted to have the talks.
Okay, but I just don't see that the value of the last.
I can understand that.
I just don't see what it is, and I don't see why it is that you insist on clinging to the charade that there were actually ever talks in the first place to be suspended.
Because it's not a charade, because they were there, and because there was a beginning. So,